Corona con el cupón Black Days de Amorando Publi. Toda la tienda a mitad de precio y hasta 20% de descuento adicional según el total de tu compra. Ingresa el cupón en el resumen de tu pedido o visita nuestras tiendas a nivel nacional.
Ya llegaron los Black Days a Alcosto y Catronics. Compra Smart TV Hyundai de 60 pulgadas y navega con su Magic Remote de manera sencilla y rápida por solo 1.699.900 pesos. Este puede ser el regalo perfecto para esta Navidad. Aprovecha en tiendas e internet.
מן העסקה הזאת כולם הגיעו מבתי הכלא באזור הצפון לכאן לכלא עופר. בשעה 4 בערב למעשה אמורים לעבור המטוסים הישראלים 13 במספר נכון לשעה זאת לידי כוחות צבא ההגנה לישראל. שם הם יקלטו אותם באופן רשמי, יצלמו אותם וגם יעבירו אותם איזושהי בדיקה רפואית מהירה ברמת העזרה הראשונה לבדוק שאין שום דבר שצריך לטפל בו עכשיו. יכול להיות שהם גם יצליחו לצאת לאיזושהי משפחות שלהם ברמה הטלפונית ואפילו לשוחח איתם יותר מאוחר. שם הם כמובן יצטרכו גם לקרוא גם לבטח לאנשים ולעבור איזושהי סדרת מקיפה יותר וגם מהרגע הזה למעשה שהחטופים האלה בבתי ישראל וישראל מודיעה שהיא קיבלה אותם בכפוף לעסקה כשכולם היו חושבים יקבלו את אותם האסירים שנשלחו מהתנאים שלהם ויובילו אותם בתוך הרכבים של הצלב האדום שיצאו מכאן שם הם למעשה ישלחו באופן סופי ותאבד איתם מהאריזה ברמת האסיר סוהר נגיד אסירים ואסירות הביטחוניים ומשם כבר ישתחררו באופן מלא. מה לגבי מאחורי הקלעים במשטרת ישראל נתנו כבר שם למבצע הזה שהוא דלתון שמיים במסגרת המבצע 12 שנות העיקריות אחד באמת לאבטח אנשים מגיעים מרחבי ממשלת ישראל גם ברמת השלמה ואולי אחר כך אם זה טרם ידוע אחרי שהם יעברו את התהליך הראשוני ובמקביל לדאוג שלא יהיו צהלות ושמחות במזרח ירושלים האסירים הביטחוניים. אותו הדבר לגבי מה שקורה בתוך בתי הכלא בצורת שירות בתי הסוהר העולים ומבקרת את בתי הכלא הצבאיים כאן ולמעשה מורידה את ההנחיות חמאס לא יודעים שרוצה לעלות הכל כדי להמשיך את השגרה בבית הסוהר כפי שהיא וצריך להזכיר שהשגרה הזאת יותר מהודקת מתחילת הלחימה. האסירים נמצאים רק בתאיהם, אין להם תקשורת ואין להם גם כל מיני פסיליטיז כמו טלוויזיה וכו'
David, we were up over at Knott's Berry Farm, looked out the window, and what do you have? Another pursuit. This is eastbound 91 freeway, just past the 5 freeway. Unclear which agency is pursuing this vehicle. Right now, he's going so fast, there's nobody right behind him, but very erratic driving, getting off of the 91 freeway. It's a black Honda Civic. The driver's side window rolled down. Apparently, this was an attempted traffic stop. As I mentioned, unclear which agency and who is pursuing here, or if this is technically still in pursuit mode. But what you can see here is that the driving is very dangerous, very erratic and aggressive tactics as he tries to thread the needle here, squeezing through these two cars at a red light. You can see some front end damage on that bumper, now turning left onto Huntington Avenue, just south of the 91 freeway. This appears to be a residential street, doing about 60 miles per hour down a residential street just east of Maple Street. So Huntington Avenue and Maple Street, just coming up on Maple, making a right turn now, slowing down just a little bit, zigzagging his way again through this residential neighborhood with nobody right behind him, but making random turns nonetheless here at a pretty high rate of speed and not really stopping for any of these stop signs. Looks like he's pulling over and maybe thinking about dumping the vehicle. There goes the driver's side door opening up, and he is either going to walk or run away here. Dropped his phone, and now maybe getting in the vehicle. We'll see here. Looks like he's very, very agitated, in a rush to get away from that vehicle. Getting in a pickup truck. We'll see if he, okay, yeah, he does not, I was going to say maybe he happens, yeah, he's breaking into the pickup truck. Right, so he's getting back in that original car. Almost for a second looked like he was intentionally getting in that pickup truck, as if he also had the keys, but obviously was trying to break in there, now choosing to get away in that original pursuit vehicle. I can tell you that Anaheim PD's helicopter is overhead here. They have eyes on it. They are probably streaming ABC7 as we speak as well. And you can see now getting back onto Falmouth Avenue at a high rate of speed after failing to take over that pickup truck back in that original Honda Civic as he tries to hide out somewhere in this neighborhood. Unclear whether he's going to get back on the freeway here, but he's almost doing a complete circle as he's basically come out the other side of this neighborhood. So heading northbound now on Catalpa Avenue into oncoming lanes of traffic. Some wild turns here. They have to get some ground units into this area because the driving, as I see it, is just way too dangerous to let this go on much further, nonetheless, in the middle of rush hour. You've got to wonder right off the bat whether this vehicle belongs to him. It just doesn't make sense that he would just dump the vehicle for no other reason except for maybe the possibility of the fact that it might be running out of gas. So if the gas is low, and if it's a stolen car, that would have made a lot of sense. Now he's parking it in a parking spot once again. Clearly, really trying to get rid of this vehicle, and now running through this subdivision here. We'll try and get across here. It looks like it's going to be North Schooner Lane as he runs through these townhomes in Anaheim. We'll try and get, if we widen out, we'll see. Okay, let's stay on him right here. He's just running around this building here. Looks like he's coming up on another couple of cars parked here, a van and a small red compact car. Looks like he's trying to break into the van. Finds an open door in that white van. And now you can see the black and whites pulling up right behind him. He's blocked in. He's inside the car, likely trying to hotwire it at this point. And you can see they have lit him up and basically blocked him in. If he tries to back out, it could get ugly. But in any event, officers now with their guns drawn, squarely waiting. They have their eyes on him. They're just waiting for backup at this point, and obviously trying to bark some orders at him, hoping he gets out of the vehicle. Let's try and come around the other side if we can. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're actually on the north side of the Disneyland TFR, so we actually are going to be forced to hold this position right here. Unfortunately, we can't see the driver's side of that white van. But again, if you're just tuning in, there is a pursuit driver that is just... Look at this! Look at this! Ramming into the front of that black and white. That is Fullerton Police. Fullerton Police now trying to block him in as he puts it in reverse. He's going up and down. He has nowhere to go here. He's really trying to ram that car out of his way as he is now stuck in that parking spot. There's really nowhere for him to go. He's got a fence in front of him. Look at this. Look at violently into reverse, ramming right into that Fullerton Police Department vehicle. That's right. Yes. This is very dangerous. Obviously, that officer has no choice but to use force if his life is in danger, but he is waiting for backup, and at this point really has very few options available to him. Here's another officer on the suspect's right rear flank. So now two officers, not sure if they both came from that same patrol car, but I only see those two officers on foot. And he is just going back and forth. Now he's created some room to escape here, and he's going to probably try and ram it again or do a four-point turn and turn it around. He's got to turn it all the way around without hitting that tree, and he may have a couple minutes to do it here because what else can those officers do? They really don't have many options. Here comes the backup. Here comes backup. Head-to-head, this is dangerous. Look at this. A head-on situation almost with that patrol car. Officers out of the vehicle, and now he's racing through the subdivision as more officers race into this neighborhood. Look at this. What is he going to do here? Around all of those black and whites, those are two Fullerton police officers that are now going to try and turn around with him. Look at this. Look at what we are seeing here. He is now back on Coronet Avenue after evading four separate black and whites who were just pulling into the neighborhood to try and help that original officer after a while seen in that parking lot. We now have a brand new pursuit on our hands here as he has carjacked this vehicle and now racing down Coronet Avenue at Maple Street. Once again, a dangerous situation on the hands of Fullerton Police here. That's right, and anybody who is willing to engage with those cops like that, attempted assault on, look at this, ramming past all of this traffic here as he tries to get back on the freeway. It looks like he's trying to get back on the 91 freeway. He sideswiped two separate cars to get through that red light, getting back onto the 91 freeway. Surely CHP is being called in here as Fullerton Police really has their hands tied. Many of those officers, I have not seen them get much closer to him, and now he is on the westbound side of the 91 freeway. As I was about to say, anybody who is that reckless and willing to put themselves in that position where they are face-to-face with those officers, it is a desperate suspect behind the wheel here, and obviously, very, very dangerous. Getting onto the 5. And he just has no regard. He has no problem ramming into anybody at this point or sideswiping any vehicle that's in his way. So I think we are about to see some really dangerous, very precarious situation here for every motorist who you see in this frame. Again, westbound side of the 91 freeway has now transitioned to the southbound the northbound 5 freeway. He is now northbound on the 5 freeway, where traffic, I've got to tell you, is relatively light for as far as I can see out the window from up here in Air 7 HD. Very little traffic in his way. I can only imagine, as you were wondering too, David, that I can only imagine that CHP has been requested to take this over because you've got Anaheim PD who's pretty much out of pocket. They do have their airship in the area, but Fullerton PD is now out of their jurisdiction. Now he's getting off at Beach Boulevard. So getting off at Beach Boulevard, onto Beach Boulevard. Oh, look at that, fishtailing as he came off the freeway there, onto Beach Boulevard, off of Beach Boulevard, onto Auto Center Drive, as he continues northbound at a high rate of speed. A little more traffic on this street here as he makes a wild right turn into oncoming lanes of traffic. There's Anaheim PD's helicopter. They are directly over him, likely calling out for CHP, but right now, ever since he took this vehicle out of that parking lot, we have not seen any ground units engage with this suspect yet. Yeah, very fearful, very agitated driver behind the wheel here. It all started as a failed traffic stop, refusing to pull over. He was in a black Honda Civic when it all started, and it appeared, we saw him on several occasions try and dump that vehicle, and now he has taken over a white van. That's a GMC van, almost looks like a work van that was parked in those townhomes now on Artesia Boulevard as CHP tries to get in here and race up Artesia to catch up with this suspect. But once again, no black and whites in sight as he is breaking every rule of the road and showing no regard for anybody's safety here, just ramming into vehicles whenever he sees anybody in his way. He sideswiped two separate vehicles getting off of the 91 freeway, lost control at Beach Boulevard, as you said, David. He fishtailed off of the freeway there, almost lost control actually, and is now regained control on a much less traveled boulevard here. This is Artesia Boulevard, where you can see once again he's got much of the road all to himself. He is just bound to lose control of this vehicle. You can tell with every turn, he's barely braking. He's taking all of these turns way too fast. A very top-heavy vehicle that he is showing very limited capability of controlling. There are some black and whites a ways back, but they are having trouble catching up. They are not competing with him with these dangerous tactics that we're seeing here. He is driving very dangerously, but they've got to figure something out because this is the same driving that we were seeing when he was in a small little black Honda Civic. We were very easily able to spot him on the freeway. Look at this, more traffic in his way. We'll see what he does here, but every time he's caught himself in a little bit of a jam, he just tries to use the vehicle to ram his way through here. Looks like he's gotten through that light there. We're on Valley View Avenue. As I was mentioning, it was very easy to spot him on the freeway originally because the driving was so erratic. And again, throughout this pursuit, except for when he stole this vehicle, he has had really nobody behind him. He's just driving like a madman through the streets of Whittier now here on Valley View Avenue at Alondra Boulevard. Through the green light here with a little more traffic in his way, and we'll see what he attempts to do here. But I've got to believe that Honda was running out of fuel. You saw some front-end damage. He obviously had been in some collisions with that car, and we already have witnessed several collisions with this car. Not to mention that wild scene in the parking lot. If you missed it, I hope we can roll back some of that video where he was ramming that black and white, that lone Fullerton police officer who was just trying to block parking spot with his gun drawn. He rammed that. Over. over the median into oncoming lanes of traffic through a parking lot here. He's going to come out on Rosecrans Avenue, going the wrong way on Rosecrans, wrong way on Rosecrans. It's a median. He's going to have to jump. Oh my goodness, look at this. He's going to probably shift over to the correct lanes here, but he had nowhere to go there, didn't jump the median, just went the wrong way, is now on the westbound side of Rosecrans Avenue, heading back towards the freeway. He's going to come up on the 5 freeway, approaching Norwalk. If he continues in the westbound direction here, looks like another crazy turn there onto a surface street, into a parking spot for no reason whatsoever. Just went right over the curb there. I mean, there really wasn't anyone in his way. I'm not even sure what's going through this guy's mind. This is just very unpredictable. Impossible to set up for a spike. Look at this. Off-roading, trying to get around traffic. Yeah, almost slammed into that tree. Now, look at this, fishtailing through the parking lot, drifting through an empty warehouse parking lot, back onto Marquette Avenue. He is having a lot of trouble with this vehicle, guys. Absolutely not. Yeah, not composed at all. It looks like he might even have a flat tire. Look at this. There are pieces. Oh, he's lost his tire. He's on his rim. He's on that left rear tire is almost down to, I don't know if there's any tread left, but he's looks like he's got some sparks coming off. Occasionally you saw some of that rubber flying off, and now he's going to have even more trouble maintaining control of this vehicle as he continues northbound on Marquette Avenue. Right along the wash here, there's a golf course off of the nose, but we are in a commercial area. It's going to turn into a more residential street if he continues, but there is a black and white now behind him, code 3 with lights and sirens on, about maybe 50 feet back. Let's go ahead and widen out and see which agency that is that's behind him. That looks like maybe still Fullerton. It's Fullerton PD. Fullerton PD back in pursuit, guys. Yeah, we're in the Norwalk area, I think, now as he comes up. Well, no, he's not in Norwalk yet, but look at this. He's going through that gas station without any tire on that left rear wheel. Almost struck several vehicles there. A miracle nobody's gotten hurt yet. But you can see he is really in a jam now. Lots of traffic ramming into all of these cars here. Again, this is northbound Carmenita Road now, and it's not moving. He's stuck. Now he's stuck. It looked like he's stuck. Sparks flying, and that officer right there has to treat this with kid glove care, and likely going to have to step away from his vehicle because we already seen him put it in reverse once and ram into that other patrol car. Right now he's trying to go forward, and he's not going anywhere at all. It looks like the van is now stuck. Yeah, this is likely to start a fire. You can see those rims are starting to glow. There's certainly more on the way over here. Right now, if we widen it just a little bit, we can confirm just that one black and white. Just the one black and white. We're at Placid Drive, northbound Carmenita Road, and he is now stranded here. We'll see how this officer deals with this. He's likely just going to wait for backup, and right now it doesn't appear as though that van is going anywhere. He's probably not aware. That's right. You've got to wonder if he's thinking about getting out of this van and trying to hijack another one. You've got to at least wonder whether that's going through his mind. He's probably not aware. Well, now he's aware. I was going to say he might not even be aware that his wheel's on fire, but certainly he's aware of the fire under the hood. More pieces flying out there as this vehicle is starting to come apart. I'm thinking it came from the, well, it could be, because, I mean, where else would that smoke be coming from? But I don't think any shots have been fired yet, so that probably is not the case. But that wheel, that left rear wheel is also creating some metal as well. So it could have come from the rear, but now I've got to wonder if that transmission is just reached its limit, and that's what's producing the smoke here. Not sure, but in any event, it has overheated, and it looks like the vehicle is now disabled. Additional units now pulling into position here. So some backup from CHP and Fullerton PD as he gets out of the vehicle, crawls out of the passenger window, and is now running for it northbound Carmenita Road. Running up northbound Carmenita at Leffingwell Road as he crosses the street. We've seen this person make several desperate attempts to hijack other vehicles. We will see what he decides to do here. Lots of folks getting home here in Fullerton, or here in the La Mirada area, I want to say, and he is now running down the sidewalk without any other wheels at his disposal. He's going to start running out of steam here, and we'll see if this ends in a foot pursuit, because I think they are pursuing him on foot, but I can't confirm that from my vantage point. Here comes another officer in the opposite direction, and he's now run into a residential alleyway here. Loses his footing. Oh no, he's now on private property. You saw that it looked like a woman next to her home here. He's now in the backyard, and he's gonna hide out here along Leffingwell Road and jumping fences. He's jumping fences, looking for a way into one of these homes. Little dog, small dog there in the backyard. He's under that patty, yeah, the awning. He's trying to get into that car, into that house rather. Several dogs barking. He's now going through that sliding glass door, making his way into the home. Somebody appears to be, might even be a homeowner, not sure. Completely unaware. Yeah, he's on the other side of the building. I don't think he has any clue. Very dangerous situation here where we have no information, but here comes somebody running out the front. Look at this. Look at this, a confrontation inside the house, a family home, and now we're going to come around the front here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at this. He's in the truck. He's in the truck. He's in the truck. He just got in that truck. There's a dog under that truck. Oh my goodness, look at this. He just stole it. Oh my God, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. This is incredible. Unbelievable. I cannot believe what we are witnessing, guys. They are going to have to get creative here because this person is look at this. Just ramming into cars, additional bumpers flying off of that other vehicle. And now he's, I believe, westbound on Leffingwell Road. I want to say westbound. Is that, can we put the compass up real quick? Yeah, westbound Leffingwell. If you live...
6 בערב, 8 בערב. זה הכיוון. לפי הפלסטינים 8 בערב, לפי הישראלים 6 בערב. זה מה שאני שומע פה, זה הרומרס. הכל בסדר. בבקשה. הוא יעבוד פה בכוונה, הוא נסע קודם ככה. بشر بس بصفي بعيد عن الأمان ونقول نقدر نسمع الأصوات في احتمالات أنا بعوفة لا ابعت لي اياه وترانشير اذا بزبطش لا انا فوق هناك عن تحت في الشارع فوق هناك
Hello everyone, it's 7 o'clock. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. More than 11,000 people are now confirmed to have died in Libya in what's the worst flood disaster in Africa's recorded history. It's Friday, the 15th of September.
We're inside Derna in the worst affected area, in the worst affected town in eastern Libya, where many relatives are still searching for their loved ones.
We're at the site of the dam that collapsed and unleashed a catastrophic flood on the Libyan city of Derna.
The United Nations has said that most of the deaths could have been avoided if there'd been an adequate early warning system. Also ahead, the father, stepmother and uncle of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif are charged with her murder. President Biden's son Hunter faces criminal charges over allegations that he lied about his use of drugs while buying a gun. Nearly £1 million for a second-hand jumper. An iconic piece of Diana memorabilia is auctioned at Sotheby's.
In sport, Manchester United winger Jadon Sancho is training alone after a row with his boss Eric Ten Hag. And the hosts France survive a scare to beat Uruguay at the Rugby World Cup.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Libya's Red Crescent says 11,300 people are now known to have died in the coastal city of Derna. The scale of the humanitarian disaster is unprecedented. This is the worst flood disaster in Africa's recorded history. People desperately need help, but they also want answers about why there was no adequate warning system in place. Well, Sky's Alex Crawford and Yusra El-Bagir have reached the city of Derna and joined me now. Alex, to you, first of all, tell us a little bit about what you've seen since you arrived there.
Well, pretty much in the centre of Derna, quite near the port, and everywhere you look here, it's 360 degrees destruction. You can look behind me. Where we're standing is the first floor of a 9-storey block of flats. It's just been levelled. Behind me are many more blocks of flats, all pancaked, smashed out the way. You can just see the foundations left here. The force of the water was so strong from the 2 dams that collapsed, which Yusra will show you in a minute, that it actually sounded like the locals saying it sounded like explosion after explosion after explosion. Massive tons of rocks, whole apartment blocks just swept away. You can see the foundations of an entire bridge. There are 3 bridges that have just been swept away. Tons of rocks have been lifted up and moved. Part of the bridge has been moved, some 700 meters. The whole of the road has been swept away. There are building after building which has been leveled or smashed through. They had, according to those who survived, about 20 minutes to get out of the way of this torrent of water. You can see again another bridge, just the foundations sticking up out of the way. That is, to the left of the bridge, is the Saba Mosque, one of the most religious sites in eastern Libya, certainly the most significant religious Islamic site here in Derna. The whole of the front has been upended. You can't see it anymore, and it's been moved about 50 meters to a completely different location. And we're finding vehicles upended in trees against buildings. The number of people who have died here is still just not known. We've seen clusters of volunteers, relatives basically, who are searching for their loved ones. Just to the right of where we are, they think there are about 14 missing people. A building's already been marked with an orange marking which shows that they think there are some dead people. Much of the imagination to know that there's so many scars here that don't even look reminiscent of buildings. there are probably, well, dozens, maybe more than that, of people's bodies they haven't yet recovered. And there are still more than 10,000 people missing, Anna.
Well, yes, the scale of this disaster is unimaginable, Alex. Is there any help coming in for these people?
We've been here overnight. We drove through the night to get here. We managed to plot a route, had the help of a local, but remember, most of us are pretty much strangers to this area. The road was clear. We managed to get through. There is no sign of any significant international aid here at all. There is very little evidence of any Libyan aid workers. We've seen some military activity, some soldiers, like I would say a handful so far, which we saw going through, a couple of soldiers just going through buildings. Most of the people we've seen are civilians, and they are in shock, staring, or they're wandering around and they've targeted a particular building where they know relatives or friends lived, and they're armed with pickaxes and shovels to try to find evidence of what happened to their relatives of loved one. And you'll notice we've noticed that a lot of them are wearing masks because there's quite a strong smell in the air of corpses. And a lot of people here feel that this was a disaster that started as a natural disaster with Storm Daniel, but they had plenty of warning about Storm Daniel. We saw it cutting its way through a number of Mediterranean countries before it hit here in eastern Libya. And then on top of that, there was a catastrophic culmination of human error, where they had preparation, they could have warned, they could have got people out of this city, out of the way, and instead they didn't. That was the first error. The second one was 2 dams collapsed, and that happened because they hadn't been looked after for many, many years. But my colleague Yusra will tell you more about that later on in the programme.
Well, yes, and just before we do go to Yusra, who can describe the scene near where that dam was breached, give us an idea of what people are saying to you there. The scale of their need is enormous.
I mean, seriously, these are people who are doing it very much on their own. You can see little patches of groups of people wandering around. This is a city. I mean, it's hard to imagine. People were living here, working just a week ago, enjoying life. It looks like someone's just picked up the middle of the city and just smashed it on the ground. Every building around that I can see has been affected in some way. And just imagine, in every one of these buildings you see collapsed, there were hundreds of people living and thriving and working. So where are they, apart from those who have died, and there are clearly thousands, what about those who have somehow survived? Where are they now living? Where have they gone? They're utterly displaced, and there must be a huge number of them, and a lot of the responsibility is being placed on the terribly poor infrastructure, the poor governance, the corruption, the splitting of the country into 2 militia-supported authorities. One is supported by the UN, and decades of problems which lead back to the 2011 NATO-backed invasion of Libya and the ousting of Colonel Gaddafi, which has had a knock-on effect on this country and reduced it to a basket case.
Alex, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's turn then to our Africa correspondent, Yusra El-Bagir, who joins me now by one of the dams which burst near Derna. And Yusra, tell us a little bit about what you can see there.
I mean, this dam is now known by residents as the Dam of Death, said Del Mot. And what we've seen as we've been here is people just come and look in awe, just shocked at the scale of the tragedy that this dam unleashed on them just in a matter of moments. Now, just behind me, you can see the structures completely collapsed. You can see the remnants of some sort of dam structure. You can see a riverbed with a stream in it, and just thinking, when you look at the cliff edge, what the maximum capacity of this valley is, just how much water must have come through to destroy this dam. And this wasn't the first dam that was completely destroyed by the floods. It was the second dam. There's one further upstream. Now these two dams usually hold back rainwater that comes during a very short period of the year here in Derna, and they keep it they regulate the water flow to the coast. And just in a matter of moments, again, residents say they heard a loud explosion after just one day of rain from Cyclone Daniel, and a street even cutting through. Now, the people here have lived by the coast for generations, many of them, and to just think of what their relationship with water now is, as this flood has just completely changed their lives. Even before we got here, one Libyan who has family here told us that this isn't a natural disaster, this is a catastrophe. And when we got here, he collapsed into tears just looking at his father's hometown and seeing what had become of it.
Well, yes, and over 11,000 now confirmed to have died, Yusra, but the thought is that number will still go much higher.
We've seen it climb in just hours. Just in Derna alone, it's 5,500 people at least killed, and the search is still on for the over 10,000 people that are missing. And again, residents here are just in a complete state of shock. This wasn't something that they were really aware of. It's not something that they were warned about adequately, even though there were enough meteorological warnings. And we had seen what had happened in Greece, as Alex said. We understood that the National Meteorological Survey did warn the government of what could happen here, the warning of floods, but nonetheless, people just had to watch and see their city torn apart.
Yusra El-Bagir there in Derna. Thanks very much indeed. Now, father, stepmother and uncle of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif have been charged with her murder. Her body was found at her home in Woking last month. Well, let's get a little bit more on this with our correspondent Rachel Venables, who's here with me. So get us up to date with the latest then, Rachel.
Well, of course, it's more than 5 weeks now since the body of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif was discovered in the empty family home in Woking in Surrey. And now we know, after a press release from Surrey Police that was issued just after midnight overnight, that the Crown Prosecution Service have authorised charges against 3 people, 3 family members. Her father, Irfan Sharif, who's 41, his partner, Benash Batul, who's 29, and his brother, so Sarah's uncle, Faisal Malik, who's 28, all of them of Hammond Road in Woking. They've been charged with her murder, as well as with causing or allowing the death of a child. Now, the trio were arrested moments after getting off a plane from Dubai at Gatwick Airport on Wednesday evening. We know that they travelled out to Pakistan along with 5 of Sarah's siblings the day before her body was found by police, which was in the early hours of the 10th of August. A post-mortem examination later found that the youngster had suffered multiple and extensive injuries that had occurred over a sustained and extended period of time. Last week, also footage that was sent to broadcasters, including Sky News, showed Ms. Batul sitting next to Mr. Sharif, speaking publicly for the first time since Sarah's death. She described what had happened as an incident, and she said they were willing to cooperate with the UK authorities and to fight their case in court. Well, the trio have been remanded in custody, and they're due at court later on today. Guildford magistrates, that'll be their first appearance since being charged overnight.
Rachel, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Let's take a look now at some of the day's other headlines, and more than 40 flights have been cancelled or diverted because of a lack of staff in air traffic control at Gatwick Airport. The airport apologised for any inconvenience caused and urged passengers to contact their airline for more information. The consumer watchdog Which says that supermarket loyalty schemes are often not as good as they appear to be. Which says that Sainsbury's and Tesco's are inflating the regular price of some items so that promotions look better. Well, both supermarkets said that Which's analysis failed to take inflation into account and insisted they adhere to trading standards rules. Around 13,000 American auto workers have gone on strike. Members of the United Auto Workers Union walked out from a General Motors assembly plant in Missouri, a Ford factory in Michigan, and a Stellantis Jeep plant in Ohio. Conservative MP Theo Clark is calling for more to be done to protect women from birth trauma after a recent poll revealed that traumatic births have prevented a significant proportion of women from having more children. The MP for Stafford has previously spoken about her own birth story, saying she thought she was going to die before emergency surgery. Now, President Biden's son Hunter faces criminal charges over allegations that he lied about his use of drugs while buying a gun. The 53-year-old is the first child of a sitting US president ever to be prosecuted. Our US correspondent Mark Stone has the details.
Well, new twists and turns in America's political rollercoaster every day now, it seems. Donald Trump, of course, has his 4 indictments, 4 court cases, and yet polling numbers that keep going up. And now, while not remotely comparable in legal terms, awkward news nonetheless for President Biden. As you say, it involves his son Hunter and this 4-page indictment against him. The charges are not new, the decision to indict, well, that is. It's all about a handgun Hunter bought in 2018. It's alleged that he lied on a form claiming that he wasn't a drug addict when it is known that he was. That is a federal offence. He thought he'd secured a plea deal back in July in which those charges would be dropped if he accepted others for tax evasion. That fell apart, and this indictment has now been issued. A trial could commence as his father seeks re-election, and that is messy to say the least. It's certainly been quite the week for President Biden. Just 2 days ago, Republicans on Capitol Hill launched an impeachment inquiry against him. They allege, without evidence so far, corruption and dodgy dealings, again involving Hunter. To be clear, there is no equivalence between Trump's legal ramblings and Biden's, but here, does that matter? People see what they want to see. 2 presumptive candidates for president, for now at least, both have their own particular challenges, and who knows what the next few weeks will bring. There is a growing sense here in Washington among Democrats that their own aging Joe Biden is maybe not their best candidate.
Let me just bring you a little bit of breaking news. And the Ministry of Defence has just published its latest intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine. And the MOD is confirming that Ukraine's missile strikes on Russia's navy in Crimea this week hit one of 4 cruise missile-capable submarines in the Black Sea Fleet and a landing ship. Now, the attack likely inflicted, they say, catastrophic damage to the Rostov-na-Doну submarine, while the Minsk landing ship has almost certainly been functionally destroyed. That's according to the Ministry of Defence in their latest assessment of the situation in Ukraine. Now then, I'm joined now by the Policing Minister, Chris Philp, who's just come in. Good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about policing, because yesterday there were a couple of bits of news concerning the Met Police. The first, that 3 Met Police officers are facing allegations of gross misconduct after the strip search of a 15-year-old schoolgirl. We also saw the Met Police paying out compensation and apologising to 2 women who were arrested at the vigil for Sarah Everard, who was, of course, the young woman who was killed by a serving Met Police officer. Are you shocked by the police's behaviour in these instances?
Well, I think behaviour like that you just described, the incident with Child Q, of course, is unacceptable. We can't have people being treated in the way that Child Q was. It's critical that where there are officers serving, in the Met or anywhere else, whose conduct doesn't come up to the required standard, it's right that that gets looked at properly, and if appropriate, they get removed. The government changed the rules. Just in fact, I was sitting on the sofa probably about 2 weeks ago, explaining how we're changing the rules to make it easier and faster for chief constables and chief officers to dismiss officers who shouldn't be wearing the badge, carrying the badge, or wearing the uniform. It's worth bearing in mind, or keeping in mind, of course, that the vast majority of police officers are brave and dedicated and hard-working. But for that small minority who let the side down, significant, and let the public down, more importantly, action does need to be taken. That's why we're giving chief constables these stronger powers. I think Mark Rowley, the Met Commissioner, is taking very strong action to sort out the historic misconduct issues in the Met, and I've got confidence in the programme of work that he's carrying out.
One of the 2 women who was arrested at the Sarah Everard vigil, who's been apologised to and given a payout to, has called for the Met Police to be abolished.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think I'm a London MP. I think it's important that we keep Londoners safe, and that is the Metropolitan Police's job. I've got confidence in Mark Rowley's turnaround plan for them. I was at a meeting yesterday with him and the Mayor of London. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, of course, is responsible for overseeing the Met politically. I think the turnaround plan is so far making progress, and I don't think disbanding the Met would help Londoners.
OK, let's move on to other issues, because there are reports today that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are considering scaling back HS2. Is the government committed to extending HS2 to Manchester?
Well, we're working on building HS2 at the moment. There are spades in the ground, there's track being laid, tunnels are being tunnelled underneath various bits of the track on the route. That work is underway. The government does from time to time consider the phasing of projects, but that's just a general comment. I don't know anything about the specifics of this. I'm a Home Office Minister, so I'm afraid I don't know about exactly what is or is not being considered, but I do know that work is ongoing as we speak to construct the line.
But you're here to represent the government. You can't say that the government is committed to extending the line to Manchester as planned.
Well, I can tell you that work on the line is ongoing at the moment. It is being built, and those trains are going to go very fast, from London going north as soon as the line is finished.
You can see that there's a possibility that it won't go to Manchester?
Well, they look at phasing occasionally, but I don't know, to be honest. As a Home Office Minister, I don't know exactly what they're looking at. You need to talk to the Treasury or the Department for Transport. What I do know is that work on constructing HS2 is going on at the moment.
The Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, has tweeted about this. He doesn't seem terribly happy. One of the things he said is that the southern half of England gets a modern railway system and the north is left with Victorian infrastructure. He asked in colourful language, what's happened to the levelling up?
Well, I mean, there's billions of pounds. I think it's £3 billion this year being invested in levelling up in the north. There are new rail projects, more local rail projects being invested in the north, road infrastructure. The government is, moving departments up into the north, so moving civil servants, government departments. So the levelling up agenda is steaming ahead. As I say, £3 billion of capital investment going into helping the north.
OK, well, so many issues to talk about today. I'm going to move on to something else, because Rishi Sunak stood in front of a sign saying stop the boats earlier this year, and yet we've had 23,000 crossings so far. The backlog in the meantime is at record levels, and the Rwanda policy potentially may never happen. So what would you give the chances of Rishi Sunak meeting that target of stopping the boats?
Well, let's start with the small boats. So the number this year compared to last year, the same time last year, is around about 20% down. Now, we'd like to go a lot further, obviously, but it's a good start that we've got those numbers down by 20% year on year, at a time when in Europe, the numbers are going up. In Europe, the illegal arrivals, illegal immigration into Europe is up by 20%. Here in the UK, we've got it, up by 30% in Europe. Here in the UK, we've got it down by 20. So that is a good start. Not by no means the job is complete, but it's a good start at least.
Will he meet his pledge?
And well, I'm confident in the fullness of time. Yes, we will stop those boats. We must stop those boats. They're illegal crossings of the channel. They're dangerous. They're also unnecessary because France is a safe country. It's not a war zone. By contrast, we see Labour proposing this open door policy, doing a deal with the European Union that would see 100,000 of Europe's illegal immigrants being shipped over to the UK, and I don't think bringing over 100,000 or more of Europe's illegal immigrants over here is what the British public want to see. We don't want Keir Starmer's open door policy.
They say that number is nonsense, and they say the fact the government is putting that number out is embarrassing. They're talking about a tailor-made deal, and isn't a deal, a returns deal, exactly what Rishi Sunak was seeking with the EU? Just last month, Downing Street said the Prime Minister remained open to taking forward negotiations on an UK-EU returns deal, but the EU rebuffed him.
Not with quotas in the way that Keir Starmer is proposing. And if you look at the... hang on.
We don't know the details of what...
If you look at the returns agreements we have got, with Albania, for example, about a year ago, we entered into a returns agreement with Albania. So when people from Albania cross the channel, they can be returned quickly back to their home country. And as a result of doing that, it has reduced Albanian arrivals by 90% in the last year. When Australia did something similar about 8-9 years ago, Operation Sovereign Borders, it cut their illegal arrivals by sea down to zero. We've got to deal with Rwanda. We're hopeful, I'm expecting that will get approved by the Supreme Court, and that will provide a huge deterrent effect, because why would you cross the channel if you're going to end up going to Rwanda? We've seen the deterrent effect working with the Albania deal, we've seen it work in Australia 8 or 9 years ago, and yet Keir Starmer proposes to scrap the Rwanda deal, even though we can see that it's going to work.
well, we don't know yet whether it will work or not, and whether or not it will go ahead.
Case studies.
Let me just put one other point to you, because Labour is also promising to end the use of hotels for asylum seekers if they got into power and help clear the backlog of cases. Labour has a point, doesn't it, that it would save a lot of money if we actually process these people rather than keeping in this accommodation.
Well, where are they going to put the 100,000 people they intend to ship over from Europe under their plan that Keir Starmer announced? I mean, that's going to make the hotel problem worse, not better.
People.
Well, if you look at the way the proposed European asylum scheme works, the UK's share of that would be about 13%, and last year they had around about 1 million asylum applications in Europe, so you can see where the 100,000 comes from. It's pretty clear. And where would, if Labour did bring across 100,000 people from Europe, where would they go? They'd end up in hotels. Look, the way to end the use of hotels is to stop the boats. We're down 20%, we need to go further. The Rwanda deal will help stop the boats. And on the asylum backlog, the Immigration Minister has doubled the number of decision makers, and the Home Secretary doubled the number of decision makers. It's up to about 2,500 now. That's double compared to last year. And we're on track by December of this year to get the legacy cases, the cases that date back from June last year or before, down to 0. So, I mean, more work to do, but there is good progress being made.
Okay, Chris Phil, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, today will bring rain to some, but over the weekend it will become more widely unsettled with increasing heat and humidity. It's mainly fine across southern Britain, northwest Ireland and northern Scotland, but most other places have some rain. Much of Ireland, Northern Ireland and southern Scotland will stay dull and wet through the morning, with localised flooding possible. The far north of England will have rain too, while northern Scotland will see just a few showers, with some strong winds over Shetland.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, Princess Diana's black sheep jumper has sold for nearly £1 million at Sotheby's auction in New York. The red jumper, famously worn by Diana at a polo match in June 1981, shortly after her engagement, far exceeded its estimated value of between £40,000 and £70,000. It was discovered in an attic in March by the designer Joanna Osborne. The sweater is amongst the initial designs by Osborne and Sally Muir for Warm and Wonderful knitwear, founded in 1979. Well, the winning bidder's identity remains undisclosed. Intriguing. Coming up on Sky News Breakfast, don't go anywhere, we're going to head to Morocco to hear from a resident in the Atlas Mountains as the country struggles in the aftermath of last week's earthquake that's known to have killed almost 3,000 people. Also ahead, some good news for the butterfly population, but a warning from conservationists. back. Our top stories this morning. Over 11,000 people are believed to have died in Libya in the worst flood in recorded African history. Father, uncle and stepmother of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif have been charged with her murder. And Hunter Biden, son of US President Joe Biden, has been indicted on 3 federal firearms-related charges. Let's go back now to our top story, the catastrophic floods in Libya. But our special correspondent Alex Crawford's in the city of Derna at the heart of the devastation.
Behind me are many more blocks of flats, all pancaked, smashed out the way. You can just see the foundations left here. The force of the water was so strong from the 2 dams that collapsed, which Yusra will show you in a minute, that it actually sounded like, the locals saying it sounded like explosion after explosion after explosion. Massive tons of rocks, whole apartment blocks just swept away. You can see the foundations of an entire bridge. There are 3 bridges that have just been swept away. Tons of rocks have been lifted up and moved. Part of the bridge has been moved, some 700 meters. The whole of the road has been swept away. There are building after building which has been leveled or smashed through. They had, according to those who survived, about 20 minutes to get out of the way of this torrent of water. You can see again another bridge, just the foundations sticking up out of the way. That is, to the left of the bridge, is the Saba Mosque, one of the most religious sites in eastern Libya, certainly the most significant religious Islamic site here in Derna. The whole of the front has been upended. You can't see it anymore, and it's been moved about 50 meters to a completely different location. And we're finding vehicles upended in trees against buildings. The number of people who have died here is still just not known.
And we'll have plenty more from Alex Crawford and from Yusra Elbagir, who are both in Derna for us today throughout the morning. In the meantime, though, Iranian security forces have deployed troops and armoured vehicles to surround the grave of Mahsa Amini ahead of the first anniversary of her death. Her death in police custody sparked the biggest anti-regime protests in the country in 4 decades. Well, since protests erupted last year, more than 22,000 people have been arrested for taking part. 500 people have been killed in the unrest, 70 of them children. And there's been another wave of arrests ahead of Saturday's anniversary, with Mahsa Amini's uncle amongst those detained. Well, Sky's Zahar Zand travelled to Turkey, where she met a network of people who fled.
Dressed in black and armed with Molotov cocktails. These protesters are preparing to once again take to the streets. In response, Iran's cleric rulers have ramped up a widespread and intensified crackdown on dissent, often with horrific consequences. Behzad is one of those paying the price for daring to demand change in Iran. The father of 2 was shot in the eye during one of the protests by the security forces.
I was wearing a pair of prescription glasses. He fired, and the bullet went right through the glass and into my eye. Everything went black.
Behzad was helped by other protesters to escape and hide in a nearby apartment. One of them was a nurse. She helped clean his wound, taking out the shots. And he wasn't alone. Hundreds were victims of the Islamic Republic's systemic targeting of the protesters' eyes.
There's a hospital called Fabi, which is known as the slaughterhouse. It was notorious because almost everyone who went there, more than 90%, ended up having their eyes taken out, even if it wasn't necessary.
Doctors were ordered to turn in protesters to the authorities. So after Behzad's eye was removed in the hospital, he was arrested. Behzad, along with many others, have been forced to escape to neighboring countries like Turkey, seeking safety and medical treatment.
Do you ever regret taking part in the protests?
No, Not at all, because I fought for a free and prosperous Iran. Once Iran is free, all this pain and suffering will finally be forgotten.
Last September saw the beginning of a months-long anti-regime uprising across Iran, the biggest the country has seen in decades. The government's response was brutal. More than 500 were killed, around 70 of them children. Thousands were imprisoned and 7 were executed.
After the anniversary of Mahsa Amini's killing, a string of other anniversaries will follow, each marking the brutal crackdown by the Iranian regime. And each one of those dates will renew the anger, grief and trauma, carrying the potential for further unrest.
That is exactly what the Islamic Republic seemed to be trying to prevent at all costs. Families of victims, lawyers and activists are amongst those aggressively targeted. Shilan Mirzai is an exiled Iranian activist in hiding. Her days are spent supporting victims of the brutal crackdown. She's in touch with dozens of people in Iran on a daily basis who've been reporting an increase of pressure and harassment. Something that Shilan herself is grappling with.
Over the past year alone, my father in Iran has been arrested at least 6 times because of my activism. So has my brother and my little sister, who was threatened with rape. I want to say it loud and clear. I'm not scared of the Islamic Republic. Even if they kill my father, I will keep on fighting. I did ask my dad once, Daddy, if you tell me to stop, I will. And he said, don't mind what happens to me, even in the worst case scenario. We can't speak out for ourselves, but you can be our voice.
Sahar Zand, Sky News.
Now, over recent years, we've heard a lot about microplastics and how they've been harming the world's oceans and marine life. But the hope of a solution might be on its way. Our science correspondent Thomas Moore joins me now from Norway. So, Thomas, what might that solution look like then?
Well, just to explain, you might hear a bit of banging in the background. We're at an old shipyard where they're repairing boats, but this is what we've come to see. This is Hardanger Fjord. It's 100 miles long, stretches from the North Sea all the way inland into Norway. It's the 3rd largest fjord in the world, but it acts as a giant snare for plastic that's swept up the coast by the Gulf Stream, some of it from as far away as the UK. Now, we're going to be going out with a big boat and lots of volunteers. There's a giant clean-up in the fjord here today, about 100 boats, possibly several thousand volunteers, all trying to clean up plastic, not just along the shoreline, but also deep down. And some of it is here. This is fishing litter. These are pots and fishing ropes and so on. And all this, of course, is made of plastic and gradually breaks down. But although the weather is pretty miserable, there will be some buoyant volunteers because of new research that shows that microplastics could be dealt with, that if you remove macroplastic, the large bits of plastic, bottles, bags and so on from the shoreline, you actually rapidly reduce microplastic by 99%. Now that gives some hope that if we deal with the stuff we can see, that the rest of it will degrade physically and chemically because of ultraviolet light, because of temperatures and so on, and that this plastic crisis can be dealt with. So this is the first time that scientists have been able to show that, and it will lift the mood of the volunteers as they start to do this enormous clean-up today.
Fascinating stuff. Thomas, thanks very much indeed. Now it's time for today's sport. Jackie joins us now. Morning to you, Jackie. And things far from boring in the Rugby World Cup.
I know. Do you know the sad thing about it is you have to wait so long for the next match. Anyway, the next round of matches is here, finally. It started last night and France did not get it all their own way.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
Mike, you had a successful career as a player. When did you realise that once your career as a player was over, that coaching and management was for you?
It actually dawned on me a little bit towards the end of my career at United. I got an offer from Norwich City to go back to United, and what I take as the reserve team.
Things developed for you at Manchester United. You ended up working with Sir Alex Ferguson. How was that experience working so closely with him day in, day out?
He took me there as a player. He gave me 5 great years as a player, and we can achieve so much in 5 years as a player with a great bunch of players and a really successful time. And then obviously I left, did a bit of coaching, or he released me, and then and then I moved on into the coaching side. But you know, I just got a phone call one day. I was being released from Stockport. The manager there got the sack, and then I was sort of on my way. I just got a call asking me to go and have a chat with him about, you know, being sacked. So never in my wildest dreams did I think it was going to, but he did. And he asked me to come in and work with again sort of what was then the reserves, which I jumped at the chance really, and that lasted a year, and then I got promoted up into the first team setting.
How was that relationship with him? Was he the kind of manager that liked you to challenge him?
Yeah, he was like that. He was very very much a leader. He led from the front, but he allowed you to work. The beauty of it with Sir Alex was he gave you that time, but he actually backed you. As long as he knew about what you were doing, how you were doing it, how you wanted to progress it, he was right behind you. And that gave me a lot of opportunity really to really work and start to think deeper about things and think about making this a really long and successful coaching career.
And in that role you worked with some fantastic players.